On this episode of Our Friend from Israel.
The first fashion collection made completely at home with 3D printers.
That was fashion icon Tyra Banks on her daytime talk show introducing the world to the work of Danit Peleg. The young Israeli designer had created the world's first 3D printed fashion line without the use of a single sewing machine.
I studied fashion design. It was my final project for a fashion school, and I decided to 3D print it instead of sewing it.
And of course you got an A.
Of course. Look at
I mean, an A++, I'm hoping. Did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That initial burst of publicity led to stories about her work in the New York Times, Forbes, Wired magazine, and even Vogue, just to name a few of the many media outlets that fawned over her fashion. At the time, she was a recent graduate of Israel's Shenkar College of Engineering and Design, and she was already making a name for herself. In today's episode, we chat with Danit from her studio in Tel Aviv to find out why she created the 3D printed fashion line, what inspires her, and what she has planned next. Stay tuned. Welcome to Our Friend from Israel, a podcast brought to you by FromTheGrapevine.com. I'm your host, Benjamin Cohen, and each week we'll have a conversation with an intriguing Israeli. They'll come from all walks of life: actors, artists, athletes, archaeologists, and other newsmakers. In today's episode, we chat with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg.
Stretch across a hanger.
Hello, this is Benjamin Cohen, and welcome to the show today. I am joined by my colleague, Alana Strauss, here in the studio. How are you today, Alana?
I'm fantastic today. How are you?
Good. So you are joining me today in the studio because you conducted today's interview with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg.
Indeed.
Before we get to today's episode with Danit, I wanted to just chat with you for a minute here. So are you big into fashion?
Like, if you ask the average person on the street, like, what is popular in fashion, they will 100% of the time know more than I will. But I do, yeah. But I do like wearing really strange things. So in that sense, I find myself identifying with like really weird fashion characters, like wasn't that in Zoolander? You know, like all the fashion people in Zoolander wear just like the weirdest stuff.
Right.
So like in that sense, I'm like I used to wear like a tie as a headband for a while. Just like, multi-purpose.
Speaking of people who think outside the box when it comes to fashion, how was your interview with Danit?
It was really interesting. Like I sort of would have imagined that when she started doing all this 3D printing, people would immediately be like, oh, wow, that's such a crazy new thing. But I was like really surprised to find out that when she started, people kind of had no idea what she was doing.
So one day she's just working on this school project, and the next day she's like, this famous fashion designer?
Yeah, well, it's like she had to do it all on her own because like she was a fashion student, but it's not like anybody, like any of her professors had experience doing 3D printing. And apparently a lot of them just like could not understand why she was doing what they were doing. Like she told me that like one of her professors was like he wouldn't understand what, like he didn't accept like what she was doing until she was in like the New York Times or something.
Wow. Very cool. I am excited to hear this interview. So without any further ado, I happy to present the interview that Alana did with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg.
Yeah, it's like afternoon.
Yeah.
But all good, really good.
So I guess we could just launch into it. You make 3D fashion, which is super cool. I know you started doing this in college. I was wondering do you remember the moment when you had the idea to make like a 3D garment?
Sure. So everything, started because I was working on my final project for fashion school. 2 years earlier, I went for an internship in New York at a
Awesome.
really amazing fashion house in Chinatown. And I worked with them on their collection, which was really innovative, and had 2 dresses printed in 3D. And that was the first time I ever saw a 3D printed garment. But I did had a few issues with them because they were using these big industrial printers. And the materials were stiff and breakable, and it was super expensive. It was like something like $20,000 per dress.
Okay.
So I came back to Israel, and then I had it in my mind. That's when I realized, okay, I have to do something with this technology, because I really love the idea that the designers could design the dresses and create it exactly the same as we saw on the computer. I was, as a student, I always like to create my own textiles, and I always combined fashion technologies in my work. So it was just another approach that I really wanted to research and learn more. So that's basically where the idea came from, or like the inspiration.
Right.
And then when I had to create a collection of 5 garments, I said, okay, I have to test these printers, but I had to find better solutions for all of the problems that I had with it. And that's when the research actually started.
When you first proposed this idea to like other students, to your teachers, how did they react?
Great question. So basically, because I was always like using different kind of like fashion technologies, like knitting machines and laser cutting, and like I always had like crazy stuff going on. So no one thought it's like everyone thought, okay, it's just or one of our thing, And my professors, the one who worked with me closely, didn't really get it. Have to say until it was published on like New York Times or something. That's when he's like, oh, okay, now I understand.
When did you kind of realize that this was really going to catch on? Because it sounds like at first when you were doing this, it just felt like, like another of your unusual projects. When did it? Yeah.
So I had 6 printers running in my house. Everything I created for my first collection was happening from my apartment in Tel Aviv. And my husband, then my boyfriend, he's like, okay, this is so insane. You're like printing clothes from our house. We have to document it. It's sick. It's so different. It's so cool. And then he was like starting to see if people were actually printing clothes or not, or like if anyone done it before. And like he did this huge research about it. And also I couldn't learn from anyone online because there is nothing like that. So he's like, okay, I have to document it. You have to explain it. You have to, continue this project. Because mostly like fashion students, they do incredible things, like beautiful collections, but then they're so scared for someone to copy them, or they're so scared to share it, or, and then they just locked it in their closet or something. And then it's, there is no continue to it. And he's like, okay, we have to create a video. We have to do something, put it on Facebook. I don't know. So we created this super low budget video from my studio, and like our friend was the producer, the model was my neighbor in Tel Aviv, and it was just like a group work, and we posted on Facebook, and we expected for like 10,000 views. I don't know, like something, few people to see it. And then it went completely viral and got something like 5 million views in like 2 weeks. And then TED called me, and they was like, we want you to do a TED Talk.
In the past few months, I've been traveling for weeks at a time with only one suitcase of clothes. One day, I was invited to an important event, and I wanted to wear something special and new for it. So I looked through my suitcase, and I couldn't find anything to wear. I was lucky to be at a technology conference at that day, and I had access to 3D printers. So I quickly designed a skirt on my computer, and I loaded the file on the printers, just printing the pieces overnight. The next morning, I just took all the pieces, assembled it together in my hotel room, and this is actually the skirt that I'm wearing right now.
And then, the committee, like the organization of the Paralympics games, the Olympics that was in Brazil, a year ago, 2 years ago, contacted me and I was like, we want you to make a dress for the opening ceremony. And I was like, okay, yeah, of course, I'll do all of that. And then that's what happened. Like it was really just viral, got tons of press all around the world from, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Vogue magazine, everyone wrote about it. Also thanks to Fashionista, which is a really big fashion blog, where after we created a video, Dan, my husband, he asked me, where do you want it to be? Who do you want to give the exclusive to it? And I was like, exclusive for this video? Like, are you serious? And then he said, yeah, I'm totally serious. Like, who is the best magazine you wanted to show it first? And I said Fashionista, obviously, because, the editor of Vogue reads Fashionista. And they answered. And they wanted the story. And it was one of the most shared stories on all time on Fashionista.
Oh, man.
Until today. Yeah. And then I got a letter from the editor. It's like, wow, what you did is incredible. We got so many shared out of it, like 60 or I don't know, like 60,000 shares for this tiny article. Yeah. So it was just, viral. So everything happened thanks to internet. and thanks for the idea that I was like open about it and shared it. And I learned the power of, sharing your thoughts and ideas. You never know where it's going to end up. That's why I'm such a believer in open source.
Was there ever a moment during all this where you were just like no way, like there's no way?
I'm still doing it. It's still like no way. I mean, it's totally turned to be my career. I can't really explain how like I couldn't see it coming, like totally. I guess like every day is like there is something new, exciting, and it's been like 3 years already. That's still my inbox is getting a lot of like such an interesting ideas, and requests for collaborations and projects, and I'm just very, very thankful for everything that happens like that.
Looking to learn more about Israeli fashion designers? Head on over to FromTheGrapevine.com. There you'll find photos from Tel Aviv Fashion Week. You'll find a story about Rosa Sinaisky, who takes her Instagram followers around the globe to the world's best fashion shows. And you'll meet a 14-year-old Israeli who became the new face of Dior. All that and more can be found at FromTheGrapevine.com. You'll notice that every single podcast on the planet asks you to rate and review them on iTunes. Why do they do that? Well, here's the answer. The more reviews and ratings that a show gets, the higher the show winds up on the iTunes charts, which in turn helps more people discover the show. So if you're enjoying this podcast, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. We greatly appreciate it. And now, back to today's interview with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg.
What are your like hopes for technology? Like, what do you think technology might do, really positive for everybody?
I think generally technology is growing because we want to find solutions for things in our life. So, and you can see it really, so much in like Israel or in Tel Aviv, which is where I live. And there is technology, like everyone is working for startups and everyone is trying to solve problems and everyone is, is doing something to create better life for us. I like technology when it's actually doing something positive. And I think a good example is what my husband is doing. He's working for a really amazing tech company who try to reduce the number of accidents, and they use technology, like a really easy app, and that's how they can save you from doing accidents. And I think, solving problem like that's in not any other way was able to be accomplished. I think that's when technology is becoming something important and great. But yeah, when it comes to fashion,
yeah, right.
When it comes to fashion, there are so many benefits with using 3D printing, or generally combining technology to our environment or to our lives. So that's why I'm very curious about doing what I'm doing.
Wait, can you tell me a bit more about how 3D printing could help the environment?
Yeah,
Walk me through that.
Sure. So there are a few big benefits to use 3D printing. First of all, now I can email you my dresses. Everything I do is digital, so it's really easy for me to transfer the information or like the dress from one side to another. So no need shipping anymore. Everything happen on demand. And then once you get my design to your email, you can easily change the size, or you can customize it so it will fit exactly to you. You can write your name on it. You can do all these changes really, really easily. And then so customization is something that is really easy to do. And then when you send to print the dress, there is no waste to it, because when I program my designs and I send them to print, the sleeve or like the front of the dress meant to be the front of the dress or the back of the dress. So I come to the point that when I print clothes, I have zero waste, because everything I produce is meant to be something in this garment. And then the fun part, the really incredible part about it, is that I can recycle my designs. So there is already today, 2018, there is a machine that you can fit on your desktop. And it's like a sort of a blender where you can just put the old t-shirt or your old top that you printed, or even just leftovers, into this machine, and it will create a new filament, the new material out of it. And then you can print again. You can use it for a new print.
Whoa.
So there is endless use.
It's like a blender for clothes.
Right. It's a blender for everything when it comes to 3D printing.
Oh, okay, because that's if it's all the same material?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you just need to divide them. You need to put the same material on the, so for what I use today, it's like a sort of a rubber. It's very basic compared to how I see the future materials with 3D printing, which will feel more and more like cotton or silk or leather or from our everyday used. But already today, I can recycle my design and create new filament, like this new rubber, and create new top or new dresses out of it. So I find it very fascinating. And I also love the idea that I don't have any inventory. When I sell my designs or when I create them, I can just show you a simulation, like a 3D simulation. And you can choose if you want to have this jacket or dress, and then I'll produce it one by one. Oh. So for young designers, not to have huge inventory, I think that could be really important. But also, imagine in a few years when you'll have this printer in your house, you'll be able to go to your favorite designer and see like the latest design from him. And if you like it, you'll buy it. You'll buy the file. So I hope that this will reduce the huge mass productions that this company create for us without even knowing if we're gonna buy it or not. And sometimes we don't like it and we don't buy it. And the leftovers, and this is not something everyone knows, but the fashion industry is making a lot of pollutions and a lot of waste is going underground at the end of the day. And they don't know what to do with all of the mass clothing lines that they're creating that people don't buy. So I think that could be an alternative, like a green alternative for people to choose what I want to have and what I want to wear and what I want to print for themselves.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. Like if you have fashion designs that are just sort of coded on a computer, it seems like people could get those pretty easily. Like it'd be really hard to keep owning them,
to protect.
Right? Yeah.
I guess it's really good. I think it's really good to compare it to what happened with the music industry, because because we used to go and buy CDs, which is really physical, and now you can just download music, right, directly to your phone, and
Right.
most of the time you can just download it, and sometimes you buy it on iTunes, or you pay for music. And I guess fashion learned a lot, and today fashion is very physical. You can really download clothes, or you can really email a dress, unless you're using my technology,
Right.
or something similar to what I do. But yeah, all of my clothes are digital, and I think we learn a lot from the music industry. And when it comes to 3D printing, a lot of companies are working to secure the files and help the designers to actually sell them and protect them. And there are companies who are working on, the idea that if you buy my design, if you buy my dress, I can limit you to use only one material when you print it. I can limit you to how many times you're going to download it. There is a new movement, a new opportunities when it comes to these files, because you can protect them. And then on the other end, it's really fun not to protect them and just give them for open source and see what happened with them, and where is it end up, and to see, for young designers, that could be an incredible opportunity to create a dress that is a viral dress or a viral t-shirt.
Oh, right.
And
right.
uploading your design, and immediately having millions of people download and use it. So the same thing with YouTube. If you want to be exposed, you will share your music on YouTube, and you will see, and you will let people to hear it for free. And if you're already famous and you have your brand, you'll be able to sell it. It's really, there are a few approaches for it.
So that kind of gets to a deep sort of debate within all this, right, should everything just be kind of open source, or should people keep trying to sort of protect their stuff? What do you feel about all that?
Yeah. I generally believe in open source, and I feel like stuff in our lives becoming more and more open, and when you want to hear music, usually you would go to YouTube or something, and not necessarily you go immediately and buy it. And I think that's what and the music industry didn't die, right?
Right.
It's still it's still alive and kicking, making a lot of money out of it and profit, and the singers still have still can live. And I feel like that's the direction we're going in our life. Everything becoming open and more shared, and you get benefits out of, you get your profit or benefits out of the idea of having a lot of people use it, and not necessarily by selling the actual thing.
Right.
So for me, I am a big believer with open source and all of that, and I'm planning to open some of my designs soon. And next to it, I will also sell ones. I will sell files for a few dollars, and give the people the option to have the advanced users. So if you're really interested of it, you will get more things out of paying a few dollars for it.
I could see people wanting to modify stuff too, right? They'll they get your design and then they kind of scramble it up and change things and make their own.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love this idea. I love the idea that you can be part of the creation, and and take it to a new direction, and I can also control, if I don't want you to do it, I can control how to to lock it, and you'll be able to just make this dress exactly like that, or I can give you the option to remix it and change it and put your personality into it. And I think I'm really curious to see what happened to the fashion industry when everyone will be able to just design and, and custom made their own and remix the designs. I think it's going to be really exciting time for the fashion industry.
If you're enjoying this interview with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg, You'll also want to check out our recent episode with Sarah Berkowitz. She's a home cook who has produced more than 400 recipes for our website at FromTheGrapevine.com.
I had an interest in psychology since I was very little. I love the idea of nurturing people and helping them fix their problems. And I've really discovered that food has a way of doing that. The act of eating and the cooking for someone is very intimate. And I find that it creates a strong bond. It's the kind of gift when you give someone homemade food or when you cook a meal for someone, it really strengthens your bond. It's more than just food.
Check out that previous episode at ourfriendfromisrael.com. And while you're there, sign up for our Israeli Kitchen newsletter to receive Sarah's recipes in your email each week. And now, back to today's episode with Israeli fashion designer Danit Peleg.
Okay, in your various world travels, what's sort of the strangest thing that's happened to you?
Beside jet lags.
Besides jet lag, yeah.
It's always such an amazing thing. First of all, to work with people from different cultures, to create all these events. It's not only just like to go there. There is like a process around it. So it's always like fascinating to see and to meet people from different places in the world. I would say the strangest thing was when I went to Sri Lanka. Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Sri Lanka, and I presented my collection there. And first of all, like to see runway full with sari, their traditional outfit, was such an amazing thing. But also like to see everyone walking like barefoot in the backstage. I don't know, like it was to see another way of like people react to fashion. They were like so loose and like easygoing. And like if you'll go to a Fashion Week in New York, everyone is, with heels and like, ready to show off. But there everyone were just, they just enjoy the creation side of it. And I really, really liked it. You have to place your clothes on the floor. It was really different, and I actually liked it.
Wait, you have to place your clothes on the... What do you mean?
Yeah. In order to, dress the models. You didn't have like racks or stuff like that. Oh. And it was like a real runway, like a serious event for them in Sri Lanka in like the middle of nowhere. But, having like a fashion show there was very, very unique.
Okay, interesting. I'm just thinking, if you go around the world meeting a lot of different fashion designers, you can kind of see how different cultures create things differently. I'm wondering if like culture has anything to do with how people design things.
Okay, so totally, yes. And this is one of the things that I love about fashion. You can totally see like what's going on in our world and like what happened on news or what happened in this country, and then see the inspiration or and see the result in like the collections.
Wow.
And I find it fascinating. Like, for a good example would be what happened like in the economic in 2008. I don't know, just an example that jumped in my head. And then you saw a lot of the fashion designers use, their clothing were with holes in them, or like it was all just looking like messy, and like luxury brands I'm talking about is creating like super dresses with holes and stuff, and that was the inspiration, or the reason it was happening is because what happened to the economic system in this year. So it's still like that. Like every time you can see like new collections on the runway, there is always like a story behind it, and usually it's really affected of what happened to of something that is from our everyday like news, but is like very like relevant to what happened to the society at that year or at that time. So it's like a translation to what happened. And when you see it, when it comes to like different countries or cultures, it's I feel like it's the same. It's like that. If you'll come to Israel, for example, and you see how people are dressed up, it's very like if you go to Tel Aviv, for example, which is a beach city, you'll see people with flip-flops walking around, very chill, very casual, very, it's like a beach city. But if you go to like other places, you'll see, I don't know, like in Jerusalem, for example, you'll see different way of people dressed up. Or so even if in like this small country, you can see so many different way people present themselves. And yeah, I do think that what happened in the news or what happened in the world or is affected what we wear right after. And on the other hand, I do feel that we're all, like if you go to Europe or if you go to the US, there is more and more similarity between us. Like the whole world is becoming more and more alike on our everyday, dresses. When you walk, it's hard to say where this person specifically is coming from. And I guess social media is what happened this way, or like the globalization, like we're trying to be one. It's easy to connect to people from around the world, so how people react in different places, and you're trying to either like copy them or trying to be the same, or for example, here in Israel, we are very, very similar to the US culture. We're very like Americans. Like every year, it's becoming more and more close to what happened in places in the US. And I don't know if we're trying to copy or we're very influenced of what happened in the US, or I don't have any explanation for it. Everything in culture becoming because of something that we're experienced. So also in fashion.
Thanks. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much for being interviewing me and and having me today. I really, really enjoy it, and I hope everyone who hears us will find it interesting, and you can all keep in touch and join me on social media or find me on my website at danitpelek.com and be in touch.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a beautiful day today.
Our Friend from Israel is a production of FromTheGrapevine.com. Extra notes and a transcript of today's episode can be found at OurFriendFromIsrael.com. Our show is produced by Paul Casco. Editorial help from Jamie Bender and Alana Strauss. Our head engineer is Everett Adams. Our theme music is by Chaim Mazar, a Hollywood film composer who grew up in Israel. You can visit our website at FromTheGrapevine.com to find more episodes of the show. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite podcast app. Feel free to leave us a review there. When you do, it helps others discover Our Friend from Israel. I'm your host, Benjamin Cohen, and until next time, we hope you have a great week.